Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, everybody. I have this recurring thought that I should be doing something right now. Bring Aubrey on.
That was so suiting for today's episode.
Yeah. Can you see me like when I take you off?
Yeah.
Can you see me like faded? I was all dancing and stuff. Did you see me?
Oh no, I don't see that part.
I
come on after.
Like when I remove us from the screen, there's like a little window on the bottom for me, and like it's like faded out, so like it's not sharp, but I can still see you.
Yeah.
And I can still see me. And I was sitting there and I was like, I wonder if she can see me like I can see her. So the music's playing and I was like, no. And I was like, I'm getting no reaction from her. I don't think she can see me. And I look really foolish right now.
Nope. Now you know.
Now I know. No reason to dance silly if you're not going to see it.
I mean, listen.
So if I'm going to dance silly, I'll just wait until you're on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now you know.
All right. Well, we got that all handled. So, so let's talk about a topic today.
Yeah.
Recurring thoughts.
Yes.
So what do you think? You want to lead us off on this?
Yeah. So today we're talking about reoccurring thoughts, and obviously when I say reoccurring, we're talking about the ones that aren't fun. not right. And so yeah, it's I see it pretty common, with myself, with others, just if there's typically following kind of like a big stressful event in life, whether it's a breakup or maybe it's leaving a job or getting fired, or getting let go, or it's just something that happens that kind of has you on the downside of life. And as you're trying to pick yourself up, you find yourself having those reoccurring thoughts of maybe it's self-worthlessness or just replaying, rejection in your mind, and how to break out of that, how to pivot or stop those reoccurring thoughts from reoccurring.
Yeah. So it is something that we all deal with. And it's, one of the, like, understanding the process of energy is helpful, because it's like, a thought is a unit of energy. So then it triggers into an emotion. And so really, there's kind of two parts. And one, sometimes we have to release some of the emotion. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that causes recurring thoughts. Sometimes it doesn't. But it's always a good thing to tune into, to check, to see, if there's any negative feelings that you need to feel and release. But before you do that, you basically have to change the way you're looking at it. Or sometimes you can release some of it beforehand and then some of it after, or vice versa. But I mean, but a big thing of stopping the thoughts and stopping the emotion from being negative emotion being created, is paying attention to how you look at it. This is something that people, a lot of times, they don't do. They don't, they're like, oh man, somebody screwed me over and, they're a jerk. Oh, okay. And then they go on with life. And it, like, as long as your outlook is that that's detrimental towards you, which is usually a version of victim mentality, then you're like, every time you're reminded of it, or your ego wants to protect you, or you hear that person's name, or somebody looks like them or whatever, it's going to trigger more negative emotion being built up, and it might regenerate those recurring thoughts too. After something reminds you of it, you might have those recurring thoughts even more. So like we can't, like people say, oh, let it go, man. Just like, let it go. Like you can't, you, if you are a victim of something, then that means that on an unconscious level, and oftentimes on a conscious level, you are there is something wrong with the world. There is something wrong. It's not fair. It's wrong. It shouldn't have happened. There's a flaw basically in the universe. So, unconsciously, this is how we look at things. Like on a surface level, we rationalize a bunch of stuff. Oh no, it's not a big deal, or blah, blah. No, like if you follow that thought deep enough, what you find is that if you are a victim mentality, basically you are believing a false truth about the universe, about the world and how it works. You can't just let that go because there's a flaw in the universe. There's like, you can't feel safe in a universe that's flawed. You can't trust in a system that is flawed and victimizes you. So there's an intricate flaw, an innate flaw in how you're perceiving reality. So you can't just let that go. You have
that perception of that victim mentality. It will continue to reoccur, is what you're saying.
Right, because the like every time something reminds you of it, it reminds you that you're a victim.
Right. And
it generates, really negative thinking. You can't let go of that. This is why they're recurring, because like you can't just, I'll just not think about that. Like, oh, really? Like you're gonna, like there's an innate flaw in the entire universe and you're screwed because of it, and you're just gonna let that go? Like you can't. So it's, I know it sounds extreme, but like if you understand it's just energy. So like if you have to follow it all the way down to understand it. And like basically if so, I'll use myself as an example. If I'm a victim of something, then the one thing that I know for sure is that I'm looking at it wrong. Because I'm not a victim of anything. Like I'm not a victim of somebody else. I'm not a victim of, like, the world didn't screw up. Like the universe didn't like create all these planets and everything and then go, whoops, like my bad. Like life has been flowing for billions of years without our help. Like the problem is us judging it as bad. There's nothing wrong with the universe. Now, there are things that we like and things that we don't like, and we can avoid things that we don't like and lean towards things we do like, but we are not a victim. Foundationally, we are not a victim of other people. Now, it's not that it's impossible to be a victim in certain situations, especially as children. When you have no power and stuff like this, and like, there are situations, but I'm talking as in general forms as adults. So like, even if something happens to us as a child, like, and maybe we're victimized as a child, the only way we can transcend that as an adult is if we reframe the way we view it. And say, I am this is where the mentality of being a survivor started coming from. People, it's like, okay, I'm not a rape victim, I'm a rape survivor. That's the pivot, because as long as you're a victim, you are disempowering yourself. And that goes against the laws of the universe. It's, it can't, the whole point of the universe is to empower us, for us to be empowered. So anything that takes our power away is incongruent with nature. That's why I say it, it's fun. We're saying that there's something fundamentally flawed in the universe when we act like a victim.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way it could have happened if the universe screwed up.
Right.
And says that we can be victims of things. And the universe is like, no, you the whole point is for you to find your power, for you to be empowered, for you to, yes, you might experience some negative things and other people might inflict them on you. But if you use them to grow and transcend and become more of you, you will no longer be their victim. So that's the whole point of it. Like, that's the whole point of controversy, is to expand you, to grow from it. It's not to smash you down into a little victim and then have you stay like that for the rest of your life. That's misuse of an unfortunate situation. When you go through an unfortunate situation, sometimes you can't control whether you go through it or whether you don't go through it. Mm-hmm. So therefore, initially, you can be that victim. You're like, oh no. But at some point, if you expect to have peace within you, you have to make peace with that situation. Yeah. So you have to shift it into, you're no longer a victim and you are empowered and stronger because of it and better because of it.
Right. Yeah. Like how you were, it's kind of like rejection is rejection. It's just what it is, not being labeled. It just is what it is. But the suffering comes in when we label it like it shouldn't have happened.
Right. And which with that word rejection, it's so heavily immersed. It shouldn't have happened is so embedded in it.
Yeah.
Like it's hard. So, rejection is one of the hardest things to deal with because of that immersion of it shouldn't have happened and the illusion that it actually even did happen. Like there is no such thing as rejection. Like, somebody can't actually reject you. They don't even know you. You are an infinite, eternal being.
Right.
So if you are aware of what you are, nobody can reject you. And if anybody was aware of what you were and what they are, they wouldn't want to reject you, because we're all one anyway. So technically, there is no such thing as rejection. Again, it's going deep enough to get to a fundamental truth that you can anchor into instead of playing these surface games. Well, yeah, but I didn't want them to do that. So therefore, well, I understand you didn't want them to do that. And, and I'm sure that there was hurtful emotions and you'll need to process those and all that stuff. But at some point, you have to get to the place of reframing it.
Yeah.
Learning what you were supposed to learn from it and then reframing it, you know, and then becoming more because of it and better because of it. Yeah. And this is taught in all spiritual teachings, all religions. It's all, that I think in Christianity, they say something like all your bad turns to good instantly. Like when God comes in, and like I experienced that with getting sober, because that's when I blew open. So like in 3 months, I went from hopeless alcoholic on my deathbed to awakened. Yeah. And it was so and sometimes I could even feel it happen in a millisecond. Like when something came into my consciousness as negative, like a past experience, like as soon as it came in, it would literally like just shift and I'd start feeling empowered because of it. Because it was just, I was seeing things differently I saw everything from a spiritual perspective then. So it was just like, oh my God, remember when that happened? Oh my God, I'm awesome. It was like, this is, what a gift.
I love that.
What a gift. I can help others now because of this on top of it. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. I'd freaking start crying when I had a memory of something negative happening to me, because crying out of joy.
Wow.
you know?
Yeah.
So that's what happens when we use it. All the negative experiences turn into our biggest assets.
Yeah.
You know, it shifts the energy of it because we use it for what it was intended for.
Right.
You know, and that's to grow.
Yeah, we're forcing it in a place where it's not supposed to go, which is inflicting suffering.
Yeah, usually where people get caught up is something negative happens to them and they don't learn from it. You know, they just go, oh no, this happened to me. Oh no. Oh, it shouldn't have. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, this is horrible that it happened to me. I can't believe it happened to me. And you know, and this is like one of my problems with like narcissists. Like that's like a freaking catchphrase at this point. Like, I mean, in 2022, like narcissist, I heard that word probably 100 times in my life up until 2022. Then I heard it like 1,000 times a week, you know? And like, I understand that there's narcissists and I understand that we need to watch out for narcissists and be aware of their behavior. But like what it turned into was giving all these narcissists power. Oh my God. Do you know what they do to people? They do to people what people allow them to do, just like everything else. Like if we're waiting to not be victimized by curing all the narcissists, all the codependent, and every other freaking label, the other 400 labels that we have for dysfunctional people, if we're waiting for all them to be healed for us to be safe, we're screwed. You're never going to be safe. But if you start working on yourself and going, okay, why was I a victim of a narcissist? Oh, low self-esteem. Oh, okay. I didn't stand in my truth. They started flipping things around and I actually believe them. I can't do that no more.
No.
Right. Now we're learning. Now we're growing. You know? Yeah. And guess what? You don't have to, like, I have no fear of meeting some, you know, woman that is going to screw with my head in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. Zero fear. Because I trust me, not because I don't think that there's a bunch of cray-cray women out there.
You know, it's the second podcast of the night.
I was just saying.
You know it is.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, you can tell it's the second podcast because I'm doing cray-cray and no mo and all this stuff.
I'm just interested to see what happens next. It's just anything.
Yeah. Don't, just as long as if we record a third one, you don't even want to know.
It's just not. I don't want to ever know.
You don't. It would. It wouldn't be airable. Yeah. You know, we wouldn't be able to put it out.
Right. Agreed.
So yeah, we have to, you know, it's so like we have to reframe the scenario. And a lot of times, I mean, especially in the beginning, you know, we can get help from other people. You know, how can I flip this so I'm not the victim of them, you know? So like a lot of times what I'll do is I'll look at things like the opposite way. You know, I like to flip-flop things. So it's like, okay, you know, well, it's their fault. Okay, what if it's my fault? How can I prevent this? You know, so you just flip the script and all of a sudden you start looking at it different ways. Another way is like, you know, when we're a victim of something, there's a lot of emotion around it. So sometimes it's hard to see. So sometimes you can picture that a friend of yours comes to you, say, you know, hey, what would I tell my friend if my friend came up and said, hey, this just happened to me and I want to reframe it? What would I tell them? Because that just disengages the emotional response from it being you, you know. So you can do that or talk to a life coach, you know, and get some help with it. But you got to reframe that, you know, you got to reframe the way you're looking at it so you're no longer a victim, because otherwise you're just going to, you're not going to be able to let it go mentally and you're not going to be able to let it go energetically. You know, you're just going to be creating more negative energy inside of you, emotional negative energy inside of you every time something reminds you of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
So for someone, I guess, that it's, for someone that's really deep in it, you know, like in the beginning of the state of before you're even present, before, you know, what would your advice be to them in that space? Like a first step.
It's definitely the second podcast. I'm just laughing. Yeah, I think they're going to have to find a way to reframe it, quite honestly, because I don't think you're going to make much progress until you do. But like probably after you reframe it, it doesn't necessarily mean that all the thoughts are going to stop.
Right.
You know, so like you can try it before you reframe it, but you probably have to reframe it first. But even after you reframe it, you know, the two things is one, simply understanding that it's just an old thought and just replant the empowering one.
Yeah.
So, you know, we so much think that if a thought goes through our head that it's us. And oh my God, like, you know, I thought about that person that victimizing me. So I must think that I'm a victim. No, that doesn't necessarily mean that. It's just your brain is a computer and it spits out random thoughts that you don't ask it to spit out all the time. You know, and if you're not asking it to spit it out, then you're not in control of it. It can only spit out what has been put in. You know, it's a computer. So, you know, once you latch onto a thought, it's in there and it can spit it out at any time. Who was it? I think it might have been Tolle was talking about this many years ago. And I think he was talking about a lamp or a vase. I think it was a vase. And he was like, yeah, or no, it might've been Michael Singer, but whatever. He's talking about a vase and he's like, oh, look at this vase. This reminds me of my grandmother's vase. Like, you know, except it's blue. Like, whose voice is that? Like, you're not asking your brain to think those things. It's just this dialogue that goes on all the time. And it happens so all the time. So we don't even know we're identified with it. We think it's us.
Yep. And
it's just regurgitated thoughts spitting out, you know? So when these thoughts come out, you know, I had to learn it when I get sober. It's because, you know, as an alcoholic, if you obsess about drinking for 20 years, that's pretty well embedded in there. You know, so the first time I thought about drinking, I called my sponsor and I'm like, I'm thinking about drinking. He's like, well, do you want to drink? No. Okay. Are you getting in the car to drive to the liquor store? No. Okay, then don't worry about it. It's just a thought passing through. It's like, oh, I didn't know they did that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's about understanding that.
Attaching to fleeting thoughts when they do. I see what you're saying. The more energy that you're pressing into those thoughts, the more they're going to manifest versus if you just let it float by. Yeah.
Right. It's like, and then like once I was like actually sober and anchored into it, and like occasionally, you know, might be sitting there on a hot summer day and I'm kicking back and go, man, that would be awesome right now is a nice cold beer. And you start picturing the you know, the frosty mug and the sweat coming down it. And you're like, the first, you know, after a while, I'd start thinking about that. I'd be like, oh, that sounds really good. Then all of a sudden I'd be like, wait a minute. Am I thinking about having a beer? I'm an alcoholic. I can't have a beer. And I'd start laughing, you know, because I didn't fear the thoughts anymore. I understood that they were just thoughts. So once I created that separation between them and they would come in and I knew that they didn't control me or they weren't me. It was just some thought coming through. They didn't have any energy unless I put energy to it. You know, it's kind of like a cloud passing by. You don't pull a cloud in front of you. You know, you just sit there and it comes into view. And if you don't do anything, it keeps moving and it passes out of view. You know? You don't push it out of view. You know? It's the same thing with thoughts.
Yeah, that's an analogy I use in my yoga, when I do shavasana. I always tell my students to think of their thoughts like clouds passing by, and just no judgment, no judgment, no nothing, just as if you're just noticing as a
Right.
third party, just noticing it, letting it go, waving goodbye. That's it.
Right, because they don't really have much energy. I mean, they are units of energy, but very minimal until you attach to it. If you put your awareness or your consciousness onto it, that's your energy.
Yeah.
So as soon as you put your energy to it, that thought is deriving energy from you. And that's what feeds it and blows it up into something bigger and traumatic and difficult and, not able to be managed.
Right.
So it's just, once you understand that they're just thoughts, you can let them go. Once you take that, especially once you take the emotional charge out of it, you reframe it. But, so if you have, if that negative thought starts grabbing a hold of you, you can just remind yourself, especially in the beginning, be like, no, that's the old way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I look at it like this now. And then that's an opportunity to reinforce the seed that you already planted. It's because you're letting go of the old way of viewing it, and you're reinforcing the new way of viewing it. So that's which kind of leads into the replacement technique. So in this particular situation, you just replace it with the thing that you reframed it with.
I see.
So that just
framework first, and then you remove and replace.
Right. Yeah. So it's just it's funny because it turns something detrimental into something positive. So because before it's the old thought would make you feel bad about yourself. Now you're using your brain as a technique or like a red flag to work on yourself, to reinforce something positive. So every time something negative comes up, you go, oh no, this is my opportunity. So instead of feeling, oh crap, I feel like crap about myself, you go, oh yay, this is my opportunity to feel good about myself, to empower myself.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so it's that, because not thinking about something doesn't work,
Right.
So
you probably think about it more, trying to not.
Right. Yeah. Trying to not think about something. I'm not going to think about it. There it is. Oh, I failed. Oh, now I'm a failure on top of thinking about it. So now, now I'm a loser and I'm a failure because I can't stop thinking about being a loser. It's like, what? And then we wonder why we have such crappy self-esteem. We're walking around doing this to ourselves all the time. And then somebody goes, oh, just let it go.
That's the best. That's what you want to hear.
Yeah. Like how?
As if you can do that.
And a lot of people, they actually think they can. Like a lot. I can't count how many times people say to me, they go, oh, I know. I just got to let it go. I'm like, no, that's not what I was going to say. Because you can't, So yeah, that, and then, the other recurring thoughts, it's that replacement technique. You can kind of do it with anything. It was like probably the biggest time I did this was during a breakup when I had reframed everything. I was like, okay, I don't feel like a victim. I don't I get it. My outlook on everything was good. So, but I kept thinking about her. Why? Well, I had fallen in love. It was, it takes a while to disconnect that. So I kept thinking about her and kept thinking about her. So I was like, okay, well, I mean, I guess this is kind of the same thing, kind of a reframe. But I went into it and I'm like, why do I keep thinking about her? And I was like, well, it's the relationship is over. So it's like, okay, well, what does the relationship involve? Well, it involves sex, intimacy, friendship, all those things. And it's like, okay, well, what am I really missing? And, it was like, I mean, sex is wonderful, but it's not all that, especially when you start comparing it to friendship and intimacy.
Yeah.
It's much more powerful, so then I was looking at friendship and intimacy, and to me, intimacy, like friendship, incites intimacy. It's about feeling safe and accepted by somebody, so it's really that intimacy that was at the root of what I felt I was missing.
Right.
And that's what was triggering the recurring thoughts, because that person, I was getting my intimacy from her. So now all of a sudden I don't have this intimacy, I miss it, and it kept triggering the thoughts. So I looked at that and I was like, okay, so how can I replace this intimacy? And I'm like, okay, well, what, get into another relationship? I'm like, no, because that dynamic is off. That means, and probably the reason I probably got unattached, and it was a unhealthy aspect to it, because I needed something from somebody else.
Yeah.
So if I need intimacy from somebody,
there's something lacking in here.
Right. There's something lacking in here. So when I go to get into a relationship at any point, and my whole goal here with this relationship, when it ended, was to learn as much as I possibly could.
Yeah.
So I didn't go repeat it in the next relationship.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, so if I don't figure out this intimacy thing, then the next relationship, the energy that I'm leaning into a relationship with is getting something from them.
Yeah.
So I need something. That means it's needy. I'm needy. That's probably not a good energy to start a relationship with. I need from you.
Yeah.
And you better not fail me, because it's going to hurt me and I'm going to lash out at you.
Yeah. We're going to be so happy together.
Yeah. So probably not a good foundation going into a relationship, needy. So I was like, okay, so intimacy, where if I'm not supposed to get it from another, where can I get it? Like from myself? Not really. So the only other thing that I can depend on other than me all the time, always, is love, God, the universe. That's the thing that's eternal. It never changes. It's the only, always existing, always will, always has, all that stuff. So I was like, okay, so I need to get my intimacy from that. And then I can share intimacy with others in relationships. Relationships are there to share things, not to get things.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so I have to get intimacy from God. So I was like, okay, every time she pops into my head, I'm going to see that as a red flag to connect to source. So that's what I did. And I was thinking about her, sometimes every 10 seconds. So I was connecting every 10 seconds. And I'll tell you, man, the amount of love that I felt within a week inside of my heart was immense.
Wow.
It's because every time I thought of her, I go get in a car and be like, oh, I wonder if she's going to come down the road. She lives near me. Oh, wait. And I just feel that, just put my attention on my heart long enough to feel that pleasurable sensation derive. That's my connection to source. It's like, oh, okay, love. Yeah, love's there. Intimacy is there. Always, all the time. It's at my fingertips whenever I want it. So I just feel it for a couple seconds. Oh, okay. Put the car in reverse. Oh, is that her coming down the road? Oh, connect.
I love
it. And I did that like probably hundreds of times a day for the first few days, so I was connecting and just feeling the love of source in my heart. And then what was cool is, the other thing that kind of backdoored me that I wasn't like looking for was the loneliness disappeared. That feeling of missing them and being lonely.
Yeah.
All of a sudden that was gone. And I was like, why is that gone? So I looked into that and I'm like,
why is it gone?
Yeah, I mean, this is how I learn. I question everything. So it's like, oh, I'm not feeling lonely. Why don't I feel lonely? you know and I
Yeah.
was like, so, and what I was seeing was that it's because you're connecting to love all the time. So it's almost like, so you depend on it, it's there, so you stop seeking it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you're in a relationship and with somebody stable for a long period of time, and you're like, in the middle of the day, it's 3 PM, and you think of them and you go, oh, I miss them, I wish I could see them. And you go, it's okay, I'll see them in a couple hours. And then that feeling's gone. Well, why? You're not with them.
Right.
So why is it gone? It's gone because you have faith that, like, you don't have to walk through life without it. It's accessible. It's there. It's in your life.
Yeah.
You just remind yourself of that, and then it goes. So when you connect to source over and over and over and over, unconsciously, what happens is you start, I didn't do this on purpose. It just happened that my unconscious started understanding that I didn't have to feel lonely. I had a sense of source of love that I had access to all the time, everywhere, consistently, whenever I wanted it. So it just stopped yearning for it.
Wow.
Because it knew it was there always,
That's amazing. Yeah. It's so connecting to source, meditation, right? That's probably
meditation. I mean, for me, like, I don't, I have such an active ADHD mind that, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've had my moments of complete stillness up here and some amazing experiences, but you ain't stopping this freaking brain very often. Like, I mean, it's but, like, I stopped trying to, really. I don't a lot of times my brain may be going and might not be going. I don't really know, because I'm not really paying attention to what it's doing.
Yeah.
So but I feel a lot. So I pay attention to feeling. So, like, that for me is meditation. I usually do this in my meditation, and I do it in just about every situation, because it's easier for me. Instead of stopping thought, like, a lot of times if you stop thought, you'll drop into a place of complete peace and contentment. At that time, if you're paying attention to how you feel, you're feeling pleasurable. So I just kind of skipped stage 1 and went to stage 2. I don't worry about stopping my brain to get there. I let my brain do whatever it wants to do, and I just go for the feeling.
Right. Just go right there.
Yeah, just go straight for the feeling. And now I have better luck maintaining. So, like, I can just put, I think when sometimes if I go through periods where I disconnect for a little while, and then I try to connect and I'm having a hard time, I'll literally ask, I'll just be like, God, please let me feel you. Just let me feel your love. Let me feel your presence. Please let me feel you. I have to feel you. Please let me feel you. And I'll just put my, and then I can't, you can't be obsessively repeating something with your brain and have your attention on your heart. So you have to shut up too, and just put your attention on your heart. That's where we feel love. So it's just, usually what I do is I just put my attention on my heart. Like, I mean, I just felt it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll do it with clients sometimes too. So it's like, we'll do it right now. So it's like, just stop for a second, put your attention on your heart, and try to feel love. And there it is.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's everything. That's connection to source. That's unconditional love. That's always at our fingertips. It's always in our heart. It's always there. All we have to do is put our attention to it. And if you try to do that and you can't, it's okay. Like, sometimes I get caught up in life, and all of a sudden I haven't connected consistently for a while, and I'm like, whoa, where the hell, how did I get here? And I'll go try to connect and I can't.
Yeah.
It's okay. relax, don't panic. It's not like everybody can connect to it. It's not like they don't. A lot of people, when they've never done it or they can't do it anymore, they'll be like, especially if they've never done it, they're like, oh, I can't do that. It's like, yeah, they don't make you.
Right.
There's no like human beings that can feel love and human beings that can't feel love factory. Like there's not like two factories. There's just one. And like, yeah, you can do it. You just have to practice. Stop trying to wrap your brain around it and understand it, and stop telling yourself I can't, and just open up, and all of a sudden it'll just be there.
Right. In a box of what it should look like or what it should feel like, or creating an expectation for it, and just be present.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes, and there's different tools you can play around with. I think we're touching on them like a couple weeks ago or something. And like you can put your focus on your body. Like there's this one meditation that talks about, I think it's Eckhart Tolle's spouse or whatever she is, Kim Eng, his partner. I think she does a meditation, and she's like, close your eyes and put your attention on your hands. How do you even know that you have hands? And if your eyes are closed, you know you have hands because you can feel the energy in them.
Yeah.
Like I can feel the energy in my hands now just because I'm talking about it.
Me too. I just noticed my hands.
So you can do that, right? And then go, okay, how do I know I have forearms? And it moves. Mm-hmm. How do I know I have upper arms and shoulders? It's crazy. How do I? Yeah, it's nuts, isn't it? It's that easy. It's just connecting to our body. This is one of the reasons why, like with the old spiritual practices of denial of the body, it never worked. People tried to find enlightenment because they felt that their physical form was a block to their enlightenment. It's not. It's a doorway. So our physical body is actually a doorway, which you as a yoga instructor, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Yeah. It's cool that you mentioned that about like the awareness meditations, because when we do Shavasana, I always mention Shavasana on this for some reason. At the end,
because it's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. We do I'll do different types of guided meditations as they go into Shavasana, and one of them actually, it's weird, I just didn't connect it, but one of them is it's like a chakra clearing meditation, and it involves like them visualizing like a white healing light that like comes down, and like you really like paint the picture so that you can be present and you actually feel that. And I forgot all about that. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
It's great. No, guided meditations are amazing for people that have a hard time sitting in silence.
Oh yeah.
Me, I'm one of them. It's tough. It's tough for me. It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough for me too.
I like guided meditation. I enjoy it. Focused, Yeah,
so I have to oscillate. I can't.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Yeah.
It just depends in the right settings. I definitely think that getting to the point of being able to sit in silence and meditation is showing more about like the way that you've trained, tapped into yourself, and you can withstand that and sit through it, and it's comfortable and you look forward to it versus like fighting it.
Yeah.
That's more, I think it just shows your growth and like how present you are. Yeah.
I think it is, and it's just a good. Yeah, I think guided meditations are almost imperative for a beginner. I mean, how do you do it? Like, how could you even, if you don't, so people, when they ask me how to start meditating, usually I tell them guided. Just Google 5-minute guided meditation or 10-minute guided meditation, or go look on Insight Timer for guided meditations for 5 or 10 minutes. And that's fine. Just do that. because you got somebody talking you through it, and it brings your consciousness. It helps me a great deal, but I just can't do it all the time because I just I don't know. I like doing the same one over and over because I don't like seeking out another one.
Yeah.
So like when I find ones that I like doing the same one over and over for a while. But then if I do the same one over and over, then then
yeah,
I'm just going through I'm just going through the motions and not even
like all the words to it at some point. Even when you mess up in the guided meditation, I know the mess up part and everything. I'm like, hold on, I'm not.
So what I was doing last time I did guided meditations is I did do the same one over and over for a longer period of time than I ever have. And the reason was because after I'll make up a time frame. I have no idea. But let's say after a month that I was getting kind of bored with the same one, or it wasn't so effective. So what I did is I turned down the volume so I couldn't hear it that well, but I kept it going anyway. And then I started practicing just stillness meditation. Not doing what they were telling me to do, not listening to it, but it was playing in the background. And then I just practiced being still. And then when I wasn't still, my attention would grab that voice. And I'd be like, oh crap, I'm supposed to be here and I'm out somewhere else. Okay. So I kind of used it to keep bringing me back, even though, so I did that for another month, so, and then I stopped. But yeah, I like mixing it up because the same thing over and over, I find with anything, prayer, meditation, most things, you start just going through the motions.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, cool. So, back to the reoccurring thoughts. So, just as a recap, so how do we handle reoccurring thoughts? We take ourselves out of victim mentality mode.
Right, and reframe it. And if there's any trapped, I guess this is one thing we didn't touch on much, and I won't go too deeply into it, but once you reframe that so you're not a victim, because until you do, it'll keep generating negative emotion. So once you reframe that, then you can go in, put your attention on your body, think of the situation. Just think of it and pay attention to how it makes you feel. And then if you feel negative emotion, let go of the story. Oh my God, I can't believe you did that, whatever. And just pay attention to the physical sensation of the emotion. Oh, my chest is getting tight. I feel pressure on my temples. Oh, I'm nauseous. Whatever. Just pay attention to the physical sensation of the emotion, and it will just leave by itself. Yeah. So that's how you get rid of the trapped emotion that you stuffed from the original incident. And so you release the emotional charge. Yeah. And then that's when it becomes matter of fact. Like when I talk about being an alcoholic or some of the crazy stuff that I did, or some of the stupid stuff I did, or some of the really bad stuff I did, like people often comment, they're like, it's so matter of fact to you. Like you're so open and honest about your past. It's like, yeah, it's because I have no emotional charge attached to it.
Yeah.
That's something that the steps helped me with, going through a fourth and a fifth step, and, writing it all down, reframing, talking it out with another person, and finding out that you don't have to be shameful of it.
Yeah.
Bringing it out into the air is what dissipates shame. So now all of a sudden you don't have the shame, you don't have the emotional charge, and then making amends for it.
Yeah.
It's all steps to do the energy work. So now all of a sudden afterwards, I'm like, I have no emotional charge. I don't with all these things. It's like I'm just telling a story almost about somebody else's life. It's just a matter of fact. I did that.
Right.
I did that. I'm not that person anymore. I'm not going to do it again. And the emotional charge is gone.
Right.
So yeah. So the reframing, the emotional charge, and then replacement.
Yeah.
replacement with whatever, is appropriate in that situation. Either replacing it with taking disempowering thought. If that disempowering thought comes up, replacing it with the new empowering thought that you reframed it with. Or, you can do something that's a little bit more extensive, like it's almost like a different topic. Like, with my ex-girlfriend, when I would think about her, what's she doing? Am I going to see her? Just random thoughts about her that didn't have any particular attachment, but I used those as a red flag to remind me to do something positive for myself.
Yeah.
Connect unconditional love over and over, so you can actually,
they'll start tipping. Right.
Oh yeah. It's like, and then all of a sudden it's like you just, I mean, like, you're not going to have reoccurring random useless thoughts if you're walking around feeling love all day.
Right.
You're walking around just, your heart feels like it's going to explode because you're just sensing unconditional love like 200 times a day. You're just walking around in bliss. Your mind isn't going to be like, hey, what's she doing? You're going to be like, what? I'm love. You're not even going to pay attention to something like some fleeting thought that has no energy to it.
Right.
It's not even going to break into your field of consciousness, really.
Yeah. And
if it does, you're just going to be like, bing.
Flick it away.
You may go. And you don't even have to tell it to go when you're in that state. Mm-hmm. You just look at it and you're like, oh, that's loving too. I must have really cared about her. Oh. Like, everything's love when you're in that much love.
Oh, man. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. Awesome.
I love that when we really dive in and do the work, and you're just in such good space that you're like freaking cheesecloth, man. Like, nothing negative sticks to you.
Nope.
You can feel the energy pass right through you sometimes. It's just like, some negative thing comes and it's just like.
Yeah. I experience it. I experience it both ways, but I do experience that a lot. And it's like just the most fulfilling feeling, because it just feels like nothing can touch you.
Yeah. Nothing owns you.
You're okay. Like, you just know it's going to be okay. You're grounded. It's like, I got this. I'm fine. Like, it really is. It's cool.
It's true freedom. I love the word empowerment, but in this case, like, freedom and transcendence are two other of my favorite words, because we don't have to deal with our problems. We need to transcend them.
Yeah.
That, like, they have to be no longer a problem. We have to be completely on the other side of it. It has to be a non-issue. There has to be no negative attachment. That's when I knew that I was all set with alcohol. It's literal. People are always, especially when I first got sober, people didn't know how to act around me. They're like, do you mind if I have a beer?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you can eat liver too. I don't like that either. Like, it's literally a non-issue. It has no power over me. I'm not scared that a bottle of alcohol is going to, like, skip its way across the table and pour itself down my throat. It's
right.
Like, it literally has no bearing in my life whatsoever. There's no issue. There's no fear. There's no emotional charge. I don't have to protect myself from it. I am completely free. And that is how I am with alcohol. And that is how I am with other things as well. That's transcendence. And that's where you land in freedom, total freedom. You don't have to, if you have to protect yourself from something, you are not free. You have not transcended it, and you do have work to do.
I like that line.
Yeah.
That was that's perfect.
Let's drop I don't want to drop my mic. It's expensive.
I'm glad it's recorded, because this is our second podcast and I don't remember exactly what you said, but I get to replay it and I can
there you go. I don't remember either. So it was just information flowing.
It was great.
That's the really good stuff always is information just flowing. Yeah. I never know what I'm saying. That's really good.
Not in the moment, right? Not till after the fact. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, Aubrey.
Thank you.
It was good. All right. I will thank you, everybody, when you listen to this. And yeah, I think that's it. I think I'm gonna wrap it up. All right. Peace, everybody. See ya.
Looking for more? Check out over 200 episodes of Life Lessons in Laughter, or click the link in the description of this episode to connect with Glenn directly.